Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Whether you're watching it on YouTube or listening on Spotify, make sure you give us a like. And on today's episode, I've got Ethan and I've got Johnny, and we're going to be talking about different aspects of being South Asian and being a South Asian male in that instance. So make sure you listen to the episode, watch it on YouTube, share it with anyone who may be interested. And as always, if you are interested in coming on the episode and discussing things and you identify yourself as a male, make sure you drop me an email. All the links are down below in the comment section on YouTube, and on Spotify you can also find it if you scroll down. So make sure you contact me if you're interested in joining. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next episode. And yeah, if you do enjoy it, like I said, and you do take something away from it, please do share it. It does help, and hopefully it can help someone out there who's listening in. Thank you. Sweet. What's going on, guys? So we'll start with the check-in round. I don't know if you guys are aware of the check-in round. Essentially, it's just a round where you talk about what's going on in your life right now, feelings, emotions, anything you want to talk about. You don't have to as well. So start with the introduction, your name, age, anything you want to introduce yourself about, and then we'll get straight into it. Anyone who want to start?
Yeah, all right, go on, I'll do it. So yeah, my name's Jonathan, 29, currently working from home really, so got a lot of time on my hands. How am I doing? Quite a high pressure situation that I'm in right now. So as you know, Jags, I just got engaged recently. So South Asians, as soon as you get engaged, when's the wedding, all of that, it's a big financial burden. On the other hand, I'm also just bought a house like about 3-4 months ago. That's another financial burden. And it's like, I don't know if it's just the South Asian parent or a Tamil parent thing where they think everything's possible within your kind of your tiny monetary bandwidth. So you have to buy a house, you have to get married, and you've only got 20k in the bank account. You know what I mean? So it's high pressure because you're trying to balance what you want to have a good wedding, but you want to put more importance on the future than something that's going to happen for one day. So yeah, high pressure, works pretty much the same. So it's a lot of juggling, and yeah, could do with a bit of a respite, to be fair.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm Ethan. I'm 21. I've just finished university. I've started a new job at the university. So I'm at St George's. So I'm currently the student union president here. Yeah. So how am I? I'm good. It's a new experience. I think the main sort of pressures that we've got is I'm only doing this for a year. I'm here doing this for 1 year, and then it's what am I doing next? So there's always you're always blindsided by the family, going, oh, what have you got planned? What's next? When you sort of don't really have that all figured out yet. And I think that's sort of one of my big pressures at the moment. I think that's something I'll talk about a bit later as well. But yeah.
Nice. So my name's Jagannath, or Jag. 31 now, 31 years old. And yeah, current life right now, it's good. It's pretty good at the moment, actually, to be fair. Got married 6 months ago, so definitely know what you're going to, Johnny. And yeah, it's like the married life is actually going really well. I would say like we've probably been closer together now since we've been married. And I think probably for me, it's just, again, the financial matters, like trying to figure out what the next step is. Saving, I've always been bad at saving. So like now just like settling down and trying to save properly for the future, planning the future together as well. So I think for me at this stage, that's probably the biggest thing on my mind. I feel like, yeah, family-wise, it's been okay. Like there's been no like pressure. But equally, they are getting older as well. So like in my head, I'm like, shit, I need to like start supporting them as well down the line. So there's that kind of worry in the back as well. So like that's probably what's going on in my mind right now. But on the whole, everything is definitely at a good place right now. Sweet. So I think we've talked about a few things, and I think one of the things that both of you kind of talked about when we first started getting in touch was the idea of pressures of being an Asian child, and expectations that come with it. So I was going to go through kind of a round and basically go through the expectations of being an Asian man, South Asian man. All of us are Tamil, so, and Tamil man in that sense as well. And what you guys feel for you come with it. Johnny, happy to go first?
Yeah. So just a bit of background on that. I'm the youngest of three. So my brother, I've got an older brother who's about 38, got a sister who's about 32, and I'm 29, as I said before. They both moved out, they're married, they have kids. My brother lives in South London, my sister lives in Essex, and I live in East London with my mum at the moment. So I'll talk about being a man in the family before anything else. There's a lot of expectation as a man, what you bring into the family. It's not just he's one of the kids, he can just stay here, do whatever, etc. Don't get me wrong, I don't pay rent. My mum lets me stay here for free, but I feel like that is then subsidized by all the tasks that you're expected to do, all the kind of emotional baggage you get with it. One main thing is, I'm guessing it doesn't help that I'm also classed as an engineer as well, that my mum expects me to do all the DIY around the house. My mum expects me to kind of anything that's physical, doesn't matter if it's to do with fixing stuff, like go getting her car serviced and getting a skip to kind of dump stuff or go to the dump yard. Everything as a man is expected to kind of fall on your shoulders, and especially seeing I'm the only one in the house now, because my brother lives too far to do it. It's an expectation, to say the least. But when it gets down to who gets kind of the more kind of caring and love in the family, it always falls down to the daughter of the family. So my sister's older than me, but she gets a lot more from my mum emotionally, kind of support, even just talking. Like I live with my mum, and I kind of probably talk to her like once or twice a day, or maybe once or twice every other day. But my sister gets a phone call every day, and I understand it's a mother-daughter relationship, and I don't have anything against that. And I'm not saying reduce what you do to her and kind of do more for me. I'm just saying as a child, I'm expecting equal. And I don't think, especially Tamil mothers, mine especially, don't understand that the lack of kind of emotional support does make a massive impact, especially when it comes down to their kind of olden days mindset of the men run the family, the men have to kind of support the family, like they should be kind of at the top of the food chain in the family, but they kind of put to the side that they have emotional baggage, they have stresses, they have strains, and when you get angry, they kind of make it your mindset, oh, you're just an angry person, but they don't kind of think about what's causing it or how can we fix it. It's always been it's your fault more than anything else. But when like a female cries, or when a female gets upset about something, it says, are you okay? What's the matter, etc. So when it comes to being an Asian man, I think that the expectations, the 21st century expectations, as well as the expectations from our parents' generation, get kind of molded together, and it gets harder to talk about your emotions, as well as expecting a suitable outcome when you talk about your emotions as well.
What do you mean by that?
So like the 21st century kind of mindset is be open, talk about your emotions, kind of it's accepted, etc. And you try to do it. Say you end up talking about your emotions. Olden days mindset is you're being weak. It's yes, you have problems, but a lot of people's kind of comeback is everyone has problems. I'm like, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying exactly. So I have problems, but it's the emotional kind of effect it's having on me. It's like, it's not easy to kind of handle a load of problems at once. And sometimes it's as easy as just unloading your baggage onto someone, not expecting an outcome, just a listening ear to be like, I have these problems. Can you just listen? And it does feel like it's a load off, but I think it's such a Tamil mindset of, I need to either give you a solution or I have to tell you that you're thinking about it in the wrong way. Sometimes it's just listen and let me kind of unload.
I resonate with that. I think, I guess in both ways as well. I feel like, especially like a couple of years ago, like me and my friend used to get together and like we would talk, and he would unload on me, and there'll be times I'll be like, I'm trying to find a solution or help him out. And in the end, he just said, I just need to like let it out. Like, I don't even want anything, to just a reassurance, understanding in that sense. So like, I can definitely resonate with that. And the other thing you said was like you and your mum living in the same house but barely speaking. Like me and my mum were the same. Like we barely speak. And whereas my partner, she speaks to her mum all the time. Their relationship is insane. And I'm just looking at this, like they're talking like normal, and her mum is actually quite cool as well in that sense. Whereas my mum, we speak every now and then. Now I've moved out, we probably speak like even once a week, even on the phone. But that's like enough, and my mum's happy with that. I'm okay with that as well.
Sure.
But it'll be nice to have that other connection where we can speak about stuff, and she gets me and I get her as well.
100%. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, so when I moved out for university, and I only came back, I just moved out for university in about 2013, and I only came back home during COVID. So I did university, started working up in Bedford, and I didn't come home till COVID. During that time, I think I probably called my mum at most once a week, and even sometimes it was like once a month. And it's like we didn't have a problem with that kind of dynamic, but it was after on where kind of life got a bit harder, and because when you're living on your own, you only have your problems to worry about. When you come living with your family, you've got your problems and your family's problems to worry about, and especially kind of within the last couple of years, my dad passed away and everything, so there's been a lot more pressure within the household itself. The dynamic didn't change, so it's still the whole only talking once or twice a week if you're not in the house, or you're only talking a couple of times every other day kind of thing. And it's in your head, it's more what do I need to do, or what did I do to first of all create this dynamic, and what do I need to do to kind of move this dynamic to something that's more kind of more proactive, where we can actually talk about stuff. Not even just, it doesn't have to be anything important. It can just be like, how was your day, or talk about a TV show, just to kind of get the kind of communication up and going. But it's not as easy with parents, to be honest.
Do you have any similar kind of views?
Yeah, no, I mean, when it comes to my childhood, I mean, so I'm the middle child, so I've got an older sister, younger sister, but for me, so my older sister's disabled, so she's limited to basically crying and laughing. She can't walk, can't talk. So I've known that my whole childhood. So for me, growing up, it was the same. Like, I didn't really get much attention. Right, I mean, I can't blame my parents for it, because they were always looking after my sister. It was just the way it was. So I think for me, I sort of had to grow up myself. I sort of just got used to, not having that attention. I never blame my parents for it. But I'll be lying if I said it didn't have an effect on me. I had to mature. I had to be quite mature from quite a young age. And I just, I've never, I'm not saying my parents aren't loving, but I didn't get that same level of affection from my parents. And again, it was, having to look after myself, having to grow up by myself, having to deal with my problems myself. And again, like it has effects now, because I feel like I can't talk about my problems because I've always just dealt with stuff myself. So even when stuff does go on, it's just like this mindset of, I'm going to fix my issues myself, because that's the way I've always done it in my life. But yeah, I mean, it was tough growing up, and we never used to, when we were younger, we used to be able to go on family holidays and stuff, because it was okay to take my sister out because she was, younger and smaller. But as she grew older, it was always, you would go with one parent, or one parent was always looking after my sister. When we go out to family functions, it was, one person always used to stay behind. So it was tough, but that's the thing, like, everyone has their problems, and I think, you can sit there and go, like, it's tough to deal with, but everyone has their own individual problems, and I think I learned that from a young age, and it's just like, you've got to pick yourself up and carry that forwards, because always you're just going to be left behind. But yeah, I mean, that was my main thing growing up. Yeah.
Cool. Quite interesting. I think both of you have similar kind of upbringings in certain ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Like, I feel like mine was different in that sense. So I've got one younger sister, and I feel like growing up, like my parents did a lot for me, but equally it was like there was times when I wanted to do things myself and I'll try and take responsibility, but it wasn't given to me. That makes sense. It would be like, oh, I'll do it. And in the end, I kind of got comfortable with that. So like, I noticed for me, my younger sister actually took on a lot of responsibility, and had a lot of pressure put on her. And I felt guilty for that. And equally, every time I did try and do it, it's almost like, oh no, it's fine. I'll do it better. I can do it. You can't do it properly. So like, there was that kind of expectation or that kind of, I don't know what you call it, like perception put on me. So it definitely feels for me like a different type of pressure. But I think a large pressure for me was like growing up was trying to support my family. I always felt like I had to grow up, support them somehow financially, do things for them. And for me, that was a lot of pressure because in my head, I was like, I don't know myself well. I don't know like what I want to do either. So like, then there's like, I need to do something to make them happy. And I think a lot of my kind of people pleasing habits, especially when I was younger, was kind of formed from that as well. But yeah, that's kind of like the people. I think the core thing for me was the people pleasing to try and fit in, but equally, it never made them fully happy, and it never made me fully happy. So like, this the last few years, me trying to be my own man, do my own thing, definitely helped because it kind of, although it seemed selfish initially, and it made me feel guilty initially, it kind of got me out my comfort zone, and they kind of grew with me, if that makes sense. And you still have tendencies where they're like, you can feel the guilt coming back, if that makes sense. Like, you should be doing more, you should be doing this.
Mind if I ask a quick question? So do you think the morals that your parents brought you up with, especially being like morals from back when in Sri Lanka, like looking after your family and everything, has affected the way you perceive your personal future? Like, if you talk to a lot of, again, people born in this country, their future 99% of the time is, I will be doing this in my life and this is where I see myself. Where we're like, I will be doing this, but I have to ensure that my family's sorted out. Do you think that kind of upbringing has affected your perception of how you will grow up or how you will kind of end up?
For me, yeah, for sure. I think I'm starting to unlearn that now as well, a little bit after marriage, like talking to my partner. But I think definitely there's a part of me like, I need to be the man of the house. I need to support my family, make a lot of money to support them. It's like everything expensive now, so I need to make more money. Like, there is that kind of back of my mind, that kind of thought process. And it doesn't have to be like that, especially this day and age. You can work smart, right? But that's what my partner always says, like, work smarter. But like, equally, there's that pressure, like, just work, try and support my family, need to do this, they can't. And equally, when they are upset or when they are like down, you kind of want to like support them more, even though what they probably need is just space for them to kind of understand their own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know. I completely agree as well. And I think there's one thing that I think every Asian child can agree on, and it's just that pressure that your parents put on you to be successful. That always comes to remind you the amount of sacrifice that they put in. Moving over, immigrating into the country, getting jobs. My dad worked 2-3 jobs, whatever, when he first got here. Paying for your tuition, getting you into good schools, and then taking you to tuitions at GCSE, A levels, whatever. And it's like there's always that pressure of, especially for me. Because I think I'm only 21. This only just happened quite recently, but it was like, oh, fine. You got to get that good degree, you got to get this job, you got to get that amount of money, you've got to find a good wife, you got to get a good kid. It's like it's that, and it's a lot, and it's that constant reminder as well, because it's not once a year or something. It's every other week. It's oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. Just constantly reminding you, and it does take a toll on you, because I think for me, my biggest thing in life is I want to make my parents proud. But when things aren't going your way, and then you got your parents going, you said you were going to do this, you never did that. What happened to this? What happened to that? And it's like, you're trying to do your best, but I think it's just the way that our parents are brought up. It's completely different to the way that we're living life right now, and it's not the same. But I think it's hard for them to understand. As much as you can try and tell them, they're never going to understand it because that's the way it was back for them.
Yep.
But it's like you're trying your hardest. You know, it's not like you're trying to fail in life. It's not like no one wants to fail in life. No one wants to be a failure. I think everyone's big thing is you want to be successful, but things aren't always going to go your way. But you'll always get the blame when something doesn't go your way. You know, for me, I was meant to do medicine at St. George's. I was in that COVID year, so I never actually got to take my A-levels. I got predicted grades, so I missed the grades to get into St. George's for medicine. And that was something that I wanted to do from quite a young age. And when I didn't get into medicine, the amount of crap that was said by my parents completely ruined me. And I ended up doing biomedical science at St. George's. But I remember when those A-level results came out and it was, you didn't get in, it was, there was the talk of, you're a failure. You said you're going to do this. Now, what are you going to do now? What's next? You've ruined your whole future plans. And it's like, I know that. I know. I didn't, it was completely out of my control. I didn't want COVID to come around. I don't want to, not do my A-levels, but it was completely out of my hand. And now I've been blamed for everything. But, I do want to make you proud. But it's just that, it's that constant thing of just, there's always that pressure. You have to be successful. But you can't always control, what's in your hand. If something gets landed to you, it's not always something that you can control. So I think that's something that's really hard for them to understand. But I think another thing is parents don't understand that the words that they use and the stuff they say to children can have a massive impact on their lives. It's something that they're constantly going to remember, especially the negative stuff. When you're being told that you're a failure, and that you're a disgrace and stuff like that, that really impacts, your child's mental well-being. Those are the stuff that sticks in my head, not the good stuff, not the times that they told me that they love me, whatever. It's the stuff that they've negatively said that still sticks with me and constantly replays in your head, and drive you crazy sometimes. But I don't know.
I was going to say I definitely resonate with the A-level thing, or for me it was like especially GCSE. I remember getting my results, and I got like decent results. And then I went home and she's like, "Oh, it's good." And then you get a phone call from someone else's child getting A stars, and you could tell, but she didn't say anything. Like my mom didn't say anything, but you could tell from her face there was like, "Oh, no, my son didn't get this," and it's disappointment in that sense. And she didn't have to say anything, but all of a sudden I feel not good enough. And like you said, like some of the stuff they say, they probably mean it from the best intention, but for me it was like, "Oh, I'm not good enough. I need to now do this and to do this." So definitely definitely resonate with that. And the other thing I was thinking of is like the idea of like sacrifice. It's almost like you feel like you need to sacrifice this and this and this. But then I also don't want that to be passed on to my children. So in a way, I need to be selfish. But equally, then if I'm selfish, my family think, "Oh, maybe he's not being good enough," or all of these thoughts will come up. These fantasies in my head probably aren't true, but yeah, it keeps coming up. So yeah, definitely resonates with that.
Yeah, I can agree, but I think one thing that especially my parents have emigrated over, their struggles are much more obvious than the struggles we currently have today. So for them, it was actually moving country, actually starting from scratch. Like it's so obvious, you can pretty much see it black and white. But these days, our struggles are different. It's, again, financial market, interest rates rising. We can't afford what they could afford back in the day. Everything's going up but your salary. Do you know what I mean? All these little things, I don't think, because it's not as obvious, it's not like black and white to them in front of their face. It's hard for them to kind of put as much significance on those struggles as the struggles they had. So to them, I feel like, or to my parents, it was their struggles were much harder, and they've given us a foundation to kind of thrive, which I'm not saying they don't. My parents raised me very well. Like they did everything they could in a parent's if you were to look at a TV show and you saw Amazing Parents, my parents were there, like, but the emotional side of things weren't there because they were so inclined to look good. Then I think that's a lot of what Tamils want to appear good to the outside world, and they don't really put as much significance in their four walls. And getting back to the point of their struggles being a certain kind of like black and white, I think they're so used to seeing a linear path of success, which is, we do this, you go study because we didn't get a chance to study, you go study and get a job. But if I was to redo my career, I don't think I would have gone to university, because I think I can get to the same place I am now by doing an apprenticeship, doing a degree apprenticeship. Less debt, more opportunity, more experience, because everyone's looking for experience these days, right? So I think another thing is, we obviously need to understand where they're coming from, which is hard for us because I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't born in Sri Lanka. I wasn't raised in Sri Lanka for a long period of time. I can't, as much as I class myself as Tamil, Sri Lankan, etc., I will never understand what they went through over there, how their upbringing was over there. And we can't. It doesn't matter what anyone says that they're Tamil, we can't understand it. They can't understand how we're getting brought up in this country, because they see everything from an adult's perspective, which is, how am I going to sort this out? How am I going to move forward? Where from when you're young, you're looking at in that moment, like, my struggles in this moment. And I think again, I'm not saying being a Tamil is the hardest thing in the world, but I think there's a massive divide between generations where the understanding will never be there. Because we live in a very stubborn generation. And so is the generation above us, because they've gone through that hard grind, and we're not willing at the moment to kind of understand each other's struggles to kind of be able to bridge that gap, if that makes sense.
I'm curious, you obviously mentioned your father passing away. Like, did that change the way your mom and you communicate, or the pressures that were put on you?
So, again, my brother and I were the main two kind of, so at the time my dad passed away, my sister was pregnant. So that kind of added to kind of keeping her out of the loop a bit and doing whatnot. So me and my brother were kind of the hands-on, kind of getting stuff sorted, etc. My brother obviously lived in South London, so there's only a finite number of things he could do. My dad owned 2 post offices in Essex, so one in Westcliff and one in Grays. I worked my 5-day job, and then every Friday, because as I was saying previously, I work half days on Fridays, I would drive all the way to Westcliff and Grays to kind of sort that stuff out as well. And there wasn't a kind of, what's going on, is everything okay with him kind of doing all of this, like driving to Westcliff about an hour and a half, especially on a Friday, where I'm ready to kind of switch off, turn down kind of thing. There was none of that kind. I know everyone's going through something. The difference was I would be in the house where everything's happening because of the whole death in the family. I would leave to go sort that stuff out, but then I'm coming back in to that all over again. There was no kind of relief from it, where my brother and my sister could go out, they could go to their own houses and kind of sit back, kind of take a moment. There wasn't that kind of checking of, is he okay? Like, does he need that time off or time away? And I think it's to do more with, people are so inclined to worry about the current situation, even though there's nothing you can do about it. People are so inclined to worry about what the current situation is, rather than how is that situation affecting someone and potentially affecting them moving forward. Because we're so, again, it could be a generational thing, it could be a South Asian thing. We're very, very now. And it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It does retract from caring about how people feel and how it may affect them.
That feels quite like, if I was in that, it's kind of like you're getting pulled to all sides. It's quite frustrating in that sense.
Yep.
Comes of it.
Yeah.
Well, have you kind of experienced similar things in your family, like with your older sister, like you mentioned, Decent? Like, do you have to like look after her a lot? Do you have a lot of responsibility for her?
Yeah. I mean, growing up, it was, you had to look after her. There were points where, you had carers who would come in, but not all the time. So, and there'll be stuff where she had to go into hospital. I remember, I think it was my, 15th birthday I spent in the hospital looking after her. just because we didn't have a carer. My parents are busy with work. You know, I had to sit there on my birthday, look after her that day. There was a lot of sacrificing. You know, with friendships, you couldn't go out to, you know, birthday parties because you had to, you know, stay at home and whatnot. But I guess that was just part of ours. But that, again, like, I don't know any different. That's just the way that it's always been for me. But I know I didn't have that same type of childhood and growing up as other kids did. Even as a kid, like, I remember going into school and being like, oh, like, I just assumed that everyone had a disabled sibling. And when I used to talk to other kids when I, you know, at a really small age, I'll be confused because I've got no idea what you're talking about. But that was just the way that I knew life. It was only until much sort of later age I realised that, you know, it's not normal, and, you know, other kids do have sort of like normal lives. And it did have an impact on you. When it came back to my parents, I think I was a lot closer to my mum growing up. My dad worked night shifts, so he always used to, you know, be out at night, and he would come back really early in the morning. He'd be sleeping through the day. I was at school, so I never really got to see him. I don't really see him on weekends and stuff. But even then, he was always with my sister. Like, you know, I wasn't as close with my dad when I was growing up. And even now, it's sort of had an effect with my relationship with my dad, because, again, like, I feel like I'm not as close to him as my mum. Like, my mum, I feel quite comfortable with her. She was a lot more loving. I was always around her when I was a kid. But, you know, even if stuff, I don't really like telling her much. But, you know, if something does come up, I'm more affectionate with my mum. But when my dad now, he's, you know, he changed jobs, whatever, and he's, you know, working day shifts, so I see him a lot more. But again, I'm not as comfortable going to him with stuff. Even growing up, it was always two sides. My dad was always, you know, one thing I really rate about him was he always instilled like life skills. He wasn't as worried about education. He still, you know, obviously cared, but it was more, you know, whenever he used to do something in the garden, he would always get me out. As a kid, it was like, you know, I just want to be inside playing games. I don't want to be out here doing this. But looking back at it now, it's like, I'm really thankful that he did. You know, like DIY around the house. Again, as a kid, it was a chore. It was like, no, I don't want to be doing this. You know, you stand there with a flashlight, just like all moody. I remember the number of times I used to get hit because, you know, I wasn't showing the enthusiasm. But now looking back at it, it's like, I really rate that, because those life skills, I think, are more vital than the educational side. Because I think everyone's book smart, but no one's street smart, you know, common sense vibes. My mum, obviously, yeah, she was more into the education, like, you know, do this, do that. Here's your exam paper. Here's a coupon. Here's that. You know, do this. But I think most parents are sort of like, you've always got one who's more educational, whatever. But, you know, that's what I really sort of struggle with now, and I really wish that I sort of can get close to my dad. But I find it really hard to just have like a normal conversation with him. Just because I didn't have that growing up, and it's weird, and I have to like sort of, I don't know, but whenever he's got stuff going on in the house, like that's my way of like sort of bonding with him. Like now, it's like, you know, if stuff needs to get done in the garden, if the car needs to be washed, like I'll go and do that with him, because that's what I had when I grew up. That's one thing that I can like sort of bond with him. But yeah, that's something that's always played in my head. Like, I really want to get closer with my dad, because yeah, he sacrificed a lot. And he's as a kid, it was like, yeah, like, you know, I didn't like him because, you know, he was more like the discipline side, you know, making me do stuff I didn't really want to do. But now looking back at it, it's like, I needed them skills. But again, it's hard just to sort of go back, and you have to like sort of relearn and forget all the memories that you had in the past and try and build a better connection with him. That's something that I'm really trying to work on. He doesn't know it, but it's something I'm really trying to work on right now. Yeah.
I can definitely correlate with that, to be honest. Like even you, like for me, it's easy for me to kind of have open conversations with people I've just met, but I think that's more to do with the lack of pressure within that situation. Like, I can talk to you about something, but if you end up thinking something of me, it's not going to affect me. But if my parents do the same thing, for me, it's like if they think down on me, it's that whole I want my parents to be proud of me, etc. It's kind of affecting that kind of thing. So I can definitely correlate with that, because I wouldn't be able to even have this conversation that I'm having with you guys now, probably with my mum, without being umming and ahhing halfway through the first sentence. So 100%, I can fully get on board with what you're saying.
Yeah. So my like biological father technically passed away when I was really young, like a few months in. So like my mom got remarried. So like my relationship with my like stepdad, essentially, but I call him dad. He's my dad. So like it's very different. So like growing up, I was never that close. I resonate with that a lot, and it's only the last few years, even my mum, to be fair, I've tried to be more open, like trying to be more vulnerable with them, and it's just like the most awkwardest like conversations is like you say something and then all of a sudden I say something else to like try and neutralize the situation, like just try and show off, yeah, it's okay though, it's fine, I'll sort it out, or like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it's really awkward. But I have found like the more I've kind of tried, that connection has slowly got better. But there's still like things they don't talk about, or things they just don't understand. And like, I think, like you said, Johnny, it's like there is that generational gap as well.
Yeah.
And as much as they have done a lot, come far, I think it'll be hard for them to kind of understand what we're going through. But yeah, I think it's definitely been nice to try and rekindle that connection, even with my mum. Like things like hugging, I know it sounds weird, but like I never used to like just go and hug my mum randomly or do anything like that. And it's only the last like decade I've done it more, and it's become more comfortable. So like, yeah, I can understand how like what you guys are talking about there.
Yes. And I was just saying, it's just that awkwardness, like, because you can't, I think my best friends know me way better than my parents do, because again, it's just that awkwardness. Like, you can't go, I just feel like, I can't go to my parents to talk about girls, stuff that's going on. Like, they'll ask, what's going on at uni, whatever, but you can't tell them what's going on, because then you're going to get hit with, what the hell are you doing? Like, about drinking, about doing this, about seeing this girl. You can't say that. Obviously your best friends know everything about you. But yeah, I mean, even now, like, you'll get asking like, oh, like, have you got your eyes on any girls? And it's like, even if I do, I'm not telling you. Like, it's always, you're against that, like, you need to find a girl. I say, yeah, I know. And like, yeah, do you want me to go find you one? I'm there. Like, it's cool, but it's just that awkwardness of you can't. But yeah, no, sorry for cutting you off. But...
No, no. So what I'm gonna say is, I've since I was young, I've been to a Catholic school, so predominantly white and black people. But I didn't have that many South Asian or Asian mates, let alone Tamil mates, till like year 9, year 10ish kind of thing. And you guys might correlate with this. Is it felt like I was living 2 different lives, where with like, especially with like white and black mates talking about silly things, whether it's girls, whether it's like flirting with someone, or even like sex or whatever. It seems like such a not casual, but it's such an easy thing to talk about. And then I come home and my mom's like, you can't have, like, my parents were like, you can't have a girlfriend until you're X age, and then once you finish uni, they're like, why don't you have a girlfriend? It's like it's a bombardment between trying to be yourself with your friends, but then confusing what's at home as your culture when it's not. So not talking about certain things isn't culture. It's more they're not that easy to talk to about these things because they find it embarrassing, because that's how they were brought up, and that's not a wrong thing. That's exactly how they were brought up, and that's how they're going to be. Especially my mum these days, she's getting much better with kind of becoming a 21st century mom, if that makes sense. Kind of being more easy to be around, kind of opening up about these things. So right now, I don't talk to her about my stuff, but if it's like something on TV, we will talk about it, or we will make passing comments that we don't find awkward and have a laugh, etc. But if it's something personal, I wouldn't go up to her and be like, oh, before when I was single, I wouldn't go up and be like, oh, I met this girl on a night out and I kind of slept with her or whatever. That's not something that will happen. But with I've got a really close cousin, I'd go tell him. And I was like, what's the difference? Is it a generational thing, or is it? But then you also have some uncles or dad's mates who turn around and come up to you and be like, oh, so you must be getting a load of girls. And then in your head, you're confused because you don't know whether it's a generational thing, or it's just your parents, because uncles don't care about if it's not your children, right? Like your parents only care about you. They want you to look better to everyone else. But when someone else's kid, like it's not your responsibility, which they don't realize how much it confuses and complicates things especially when you're younger. It confuses and complicates things because then there's a third dimension, because you have your school life, you have your home life, and now you have uncles and aunties asking you completely different things. So for me especially, I got to a point where I was so different at school than I was at home that it got to a point where I it's just felt like I had to kind of decide which one am I. Like, am I the guy that comes home, doesn't talk about anything, very sensible, etc., or am I the guy who does what he needs to do but then is quite boisterous, is kind of talks about anything he wants, does what he wants, kind of thing. So it was a kind of like a devil and angel kind of thing. You can pick which one's which, but it was kind of a hard balance to make people older than you understand.
I find it still absurd, like how you have uncles that come up to you and ask these questions, and then the same uncles go to their like son or daughter and like, you can't be like that, you can't do this, and it's like so contradictory, and it's like they're putting you down, or like they're talking to you and they're like trying to like, you know, get on your same wavelength, but equally they're putting you down in some ways.
What I find funny about Tamil parents especially is that they'll do these things where, okay, they discipline their kids and they'll go do these things to other kids, but the same parents will also compare their kids to other kids, which would be like, why are they doing better than you, or why are you not doing that? It's like there isn't a kind of a narrow thought process. It's very like, if I need to do something for my kid, whether I'm contradicting myself or not, I will do it. Which, from one perspective of I want to be the best role model for my child, is amazing, but I don't think they understand how it comes across to someone that actually understands that there is a contradiction there.
100%. I guess we've talked about a few different things. Is there anything else like you think is related to this topic that you guys find often comes up?
As a male, South Asian male, I think one of the, especially being in my position now, one of the weirdest things is when you've got a girlfriend and you have to hide your girlfriend for a number of years. And it's like, I obviously, as I said, I'm forward to a Catholic school, and they're like, oh, my mum invited my boyfriend over and my girlfriend over, and I'm just like, in your head, you're just imagine like, I can't do this. But after a while, like Jaggers, you know, me and Suji are very good mates. They used to come over just to chill out. My mom didn't have a problem with that. If they were just friends, no problem whatsoever. But as soon as you put girlfriend together, it's like, no, you're too young, you don't understand what you're doing, etc., etc. I think that's one thing. Again, I don't know how it is from a female perspective, female South Asian perspective, but from a male South Asian perspective, it was very difficult because of those things to kind of talk to them about females in general, even understanding, like, I've got a sister, I've got a mum, I've got a gran, but understanding how like the menstrual cycle works and all of that never came from them, or from school, or from my friends, which I find quite absurd when I have 3 women directly involved in my life, which again, it's absurd, where you want to kind of learn within your 4 walls and not embarrass yourself on the way out. But it kind of became the opposite. I'd embarrass myself on the way out, and then you'd understand what's happening at home.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I mean, it was like, you know, I mean, I had a girlfriend last year, 6-7 months, but God, never in a million years they'll take her home. And the other thing is, you're always told, I mean, for me, I think it's the same for most people. It's, you know, you have to get married to a Tamil girl. Don't even think about bringing home anyone else. Indian maybe, but anyone else, you're not bringing home. But you know, you question it. I've always questioned, because I like to. I think I'd say I'm a bit of a rogue child. You know, just from the way I've grown up, I always just do things without telling. You know, I dyed my hair blonde, didn't tell my parents, and just show them. I was like, look, I don't care what you're going to say, and I think they know that as well. But you know, when you question, you know, why can't I bring home, you know, a white girl? And it's like, oh, it's a culture thing. They're never gonna understand. I'm gonna have to talk in English when they're around. But they're very true. They're not gonna eat our food. They're not gonna. But they're quite small issues, and I think even from a personal perspective, I'm not gonna get married to a girl who's not relating to my culture either. Like, if they're not appreciative of my culture, if they don't want to dress up in saris, if they don't want to eat, mutton biryani, then I'm not gonna put up with that either. And their only thing is, they don't have the same values. If something goes wrong in the family, they'll just divorce you. But I mean, from growing up and looking at other families and looking at my own parents sometimes, like, they're not in a loving relationship. It's, it's arranged marriages. It's, you're both from the same town back in Sri Lanka. Now you're getting married or whatever. There's no real like connection or love. And there always are, you always hear stories about, this uncle was broken up with that auntie and, they're going for a divorce, and, you look at your own parents and they're fighting over small things as well. And it's like, there's no real difference. I mean, I've never understood that. And I've always told my parents, like, especially now when I'm coming up to that sort of age, it's, if I find someone and I really like them and, I love them with my heart, I hope as my parents could understand that I found someone that I really like, I love them, and if you want to see me happy, then I would want you to bless that marriage, no matter who it is. And even if I do find someone who's not Tamil, I mean, I will bring them home, because if you want to see me happy, and I've always told them, you can complain about whatever you want, but if I'm happy with someone, and if you want to see me happy, then I'm going to bring them home, and whether you like it or not, I'm getting married. Like, because they're always here for, I want to see you happy, I want to be here for your happiness, whatever. But if it comes something, if you really do care about your child, and they really, if they bring someone home that they really like, I don't see that, there shouldn't be an issue there. I don't know about you guys. I mean, you guys are, all married and getting married and whatnot, but I'm sure you had these same sort of conversations with your parents as well.
Well, I think one thing that kind of added to that for me was I'm the youngest out of all of my cousins. I'm the youngest of my siblings. So everyone obviously got married before me. Everyone, not a single person, didn't get married to a Tamil person. So everyone's got a Tamil partner. And as I said, Athlet School, I was very kind of diverse with the people I was socializing with. And for a long time, the kind of relationships I had were with white people, black people, everything in between, really. And there was that kind of, it was never said, but there was always an underlying thing of, we expect you to come home with a Tamil girl. Then later on down the line, my mum was quite chill. Like, I brought home a load of mates that are white, black, Tamil, etc. And she got along with most of them. Obviously, there are friends that you're going to bring home that they don't like, but most of them, that she was fine with. But it did, with the whole being the youngest and expecting to follow previous trends, whatever the trend is, it's because they've done it, you need to do it, or it's embarrassing. I think, especially within Tamil culture, it's what other people perceive of your family and your kids and you makes a massive impact on how you kind of handle things within your four walls, which I think is, to me, it's mind-boggling. I could never understand why people's perception of you actually mattered when they don't matter. They don't make an impact on your life. Fair enough if it's like your cousins or your grandma or someone that actually makes an impact. Fair enough. I couldn't fault that. But where it's Kamala auntie down the road, she doesn't like that you're hanging out with girls on the road. That's, for me, it's an innocent, she's one of my friends, we're just gonna chill out, it's on the road. If I was to do something, I wouldn't be on the road. They fail to understand kind of your thought process and perception. Everyone else's trumps it.
Yeah, for sure. I think the first time I told my parents about like my partner right now, the initial reaction was like, oh, okay, cool. Where's she from? Like, who is she? What does she do? All these kind of questions. And I only really told them because they were like, there's a girl interested in you. We're thinking of arranged marriage. And I was like, no, it's fine. I'm okay with it. They're like, no, it's fine. Like, we'll go meet them. And I was like, no, I'm good. and
Chill
I
out.
had to go tell them. And it was interesting because like it's not like, oh, we're happy for you. It's like, oh, who is she? All of these questions, and I think similar with my partner, she asked me a few questions, and I was like, why are you asking me these questions? Like these are like off topic, like I know you don't care about these things, and she asked me, she was like, her parents are interested in it. There's always interesting like how you like this person for who they are, but equally their parents, have to have some say in it, have to have some opinion in it, and they have to kind of push it on to their child as well.
Yeah.
I think it's like, I feel like, being a Tamil child is sort of like being a car. Like it's that image of like, you're sort of like a little trophy or something that you get shown around to everyone. It's like, and I think, it got mentioned earlier as well. It's like everyone's trying to outdo everyone else. Even when it comes down to like weddings, like everyone wants to put on the fanciest, biggest wedding. They want to invite everyone down. They want to show off. They got this catering company. They got this photographer. For what? Like, for what? Like you've invited half the bloody town down, but like none of them actually really care about being there. It's just to show off that you put on this massive event. You got this amount of money. It's all a showing off contest. And I've told my parents I don't care about any of that nonsense. Like, I want to have a small one, just close people. I don't want to show off. Like it's at the end of the day, it's all just a massive. I feel it's a massive waste of money because that could actually go to something much better, like putting down a house deposit or something. But for the parents, it's like, now we need to put this on. They had this at their wedding, they had this at their reception. We need to have this, we need to have that. But for what? Like you're just showing off, and that's what it honestly always sometimes feels like. And it's like, even with like exams, like A levels, like they call up each other's friends and they're like, this, my son got this amount of A stars, my son got this amount of A stars. For what? Like, what are you trying to compare for? It's you're not winning. But like the children don't care. They don't go around calling their mates, going, "Oh, how many A stars do you get?" It's just no one cares. It's only the parents that try to push this forward. Like it's like sort of like this agenda. Like I've got the best kid. Like there's no award for it. Like you're not gaining anything from it. I've never managed to sort of get my head around it. It sometimes does piss me off a bit, just because it's just like no one actually cares. You're all going to be here. You're all human. You're all going to live and die. You're not going to win something for being the best child or the best parent. No one actually cares. Yeah, they might care in that moment for like a week or two, but everyone's going to forget. Everyone, life moves on. That's what they don't seem to understand. Like it's like a massive competition for them. It's just not.
I think one thing that kind of touch on both your points is, again, it's that generational gap. Like all the questions that Jag, your partner, asked you about like family and whatnot. We don't know, but that may have worked back at home for them. Do you know what I mean? That may have been the way they kind of sussed out people, or the way it worked. Coming here, we don't live in those same towns, the same villages. We don't socialize with just those people within that bubble. So it won't work for where we are. Do you know what I mean? So I think again, it's that generational thing of they're so used to thinking about how they got raised, and that's exactly how we need to be raised as well. Which is again, a thing that they need to understand and we need to understand. But I think where kind of us as kind of the younger generation, say youngish generation, kind of fall back is we also lack understanding of what our parents are trying to do for us. Like, again, for them, just for an example, like taking caste into account, for them it's upbringing, for them it's how they act, for them it's how families are, but for us it's just classes, it's reputation, and like we don't care about that stuff. They don't understand, it doesn't make sense in these days, but we lack the understanding of why they're doing it because we're so stubborn of, no, we're in England in the 21st century. Like, I mean, it's again, it's that stubbornness from both generations that I was talking about previously that stops us from kind of developing relationships with our parents. But a funny point on what about universities and stuff and results. So I actually had a friend's mum come up to me and kind of ask me about, which university did you get into after A levels came out? And I went to Loughborough University, and only recently, within the last like 5-10 years, Loughborough University has been kind of a well-known university in the Tamil community. And it's a top 10 university in quite a lot of things. I kid you not, she turned around because her son was going King's. She turned around and went, "Oh, Loughborough, it's not King's, is it?" And I was like, what was the need? What was the need? Like, but and then on the other side of things, kind of a year later, I think her son dropped out of King's, and me being the stubborn person I am, turned around and went, "It's not King's, is it?" And then, but that's me being stubborn and being petty. Yeah. That's how our generation kind of react to situations.
At least it's nice that you can accept that you're being stubborn and petty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but again, it wasn't in the moment. I was just being a dick, to be honest. I was proud of it for quite a few years. Then after a while, reflecting on it, it was quite an embarrassing thing to do. Like it's something that you kind of show that, yes, you're quite immature at that point. You didn't have to stoop down to that auntie's level and kind of do what she did. And I think one thing that I kind of also grasp is, especially my family, they're not good at telling you they're proud of you. They're just really bad at it. Their version of that is boasting about you to other people, which they don't realize is you're comparing your kid to someone else's kid and basically putting down someone else's kid. I don't think they realize that. To them, it's no, I'm talking about my kid. I'm talking about how well my kid's doing, but they don't understand the latter effects of how that can come across. So again, when my cousin's parents tell my parents, it's all right for me because I'm younger, so I haven't got to that level yet. Do you know what I mean? They went to university all before me, but then my sister's a year older than one of my cousins, so it's like they kind of it's an indirect comparison of he's going there, here, she's going here, and it's like, it's not necessary just to pass the news, say you're proud, and then we can move on with life. But it always has to be we need to one step everyone. We have to one step. And that could just be generational. That could be because they don't know how to kind of tell your own kids that you're proud. They want you to hear it third hand, if anything. Because I don't know about you guys, I've had multiple uncles and aunties after my dad died turn around and be like, "Oh, your dad was really proud of you. He was happy that you were so successful, blah, blah, blah." But I'm like, but I've never heard it from him. And it's like, if I haven't heard it, he might have told you guys, but how can I believe it? That's what kind of the mentality you kind of get into because you don't hear it.
It's true. I do have a question, final question to kind of wrap up, is that I guess you're talking about the generational difference. Going forward, how would you both individually kind of focus on, I guess, assuming you have children or, you have just your kind of values going forward, how would you instill both the parents' culture versus your kind of the current generation? How do you instill those values in yourself and your children if you go forward?
I mean, for me, I think there are some values that you can take down and pass on to your kids. Like, you've got to be hardworking. Nothing's going to come to you free. Like, you've got to work for your success. But also bearing in mind, not everything is in their hands. Something are just out of their hands and something are out of control. And, if stuff doesn't go their way, I'm not going to blame you for it. I will, I'll lead you in the direction. You can do what you want in your life. If you want to become, I think that's another thing that parents don't understand. There's a lot of ways to make money in this age. It's not just, you have to go to school, go to university, get a degree, get into this job, become a doctor, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of different ways of making money. And I'll be 100% supportive. I'm not going to push you down a direction. I'll give you advice. But if you want to go and do something else, you can go and do something else. But, they can't come back, later on down the line and go, "Oh, you didn't give me this, but, you didn't tell me this, you didn't push me there." I'll give you what you need. I'll give you the money, I'll give you the support. But you do what you want to do in life. And I think that's the way it should be. Not, here's what you're going to do. I'm going to send you to all of these places. This is what you're going to do in life. Sort of that heavy-handed approach. More like a, sort of floating, I'm here for your support. You can come more, sort of be like a supportive friend. Not like this authoritative position that you have to be sort of scared of. Yeah, but I think that those are like the main things. Like, just I'm here for support. I'll give you the life skills that you need. I'll have the chats that you need to have, because I know what it feels like, being born here and being raised up here. I know what it feels like, and I think that's where our parents lack as well. It's they don't know what it's like growing up here. They've still got that mentality of being back in Sri Lanka, and I think times have changed, but I don't think we'll ever see it from our parents. But I think that's where we have to change, and show that to our kids. Like, times are different.
Yeah, completely agree. That it's a 50-50 thing, right? We have to go halfway and they have to come halfway, because we literally can't do their half, because only they can understand what they're doing. But what I've kind of noticed, especially from my perspective, I'm the youngest, so I don't really get hurt anyway at home. But I'm a very argumentative and I get annoyed fairly easily. But what I realized when I started working is, when 60-year-old Steve at work has a problem with me, I don't deal with it the same way. Why not? Because I've got something to lose. Do you know what I mean? I know as much as I shout at my parents, I'm not going to lose anything there. Then that's where the mindset has to change from my perspective of, if I can treat someone outside of my four walls in a way that, okay, I kind of ignore their kind of outburst, but then I go back because I need something from them. I can go make them understand and kind of take my time out of my day to kind of help with the process. I can then come do that at home as well. Same, my mom doesn't understand something, or she's so like, she's right. I can always let it die down, bring the conversation up later, and then kind of explain it so that she can understand my perspective. And hopefully the outcome of that is either she accepts my side of it, or she then tells me her side, and then we might be able to come to kind of a mutual ground, or we just agree to disagree. There doesn't have to be an uproar and an argument. And again, I don't know if this is with everyone, but we argue a fair amount, because it's me. I'm an argumentative person. I can't fault anyone else for that. But it's something that I could change from my end, is being more proactive to understand the other side and make my side understood. A lot of people would argue, why are you doing both sides? Why are you also doing the understanding and also trying to get people to understand? But if no one else is doing it, it's a relationship worth saving and worth developing. So don't be embarrassed about it.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with both what you said. I think for me, like, I probably try too hard to understand, so I'm probably a bit the other way. And I think I probably need to step forward and like just own why I want to do. If that makes sense. So I think that's probably what I want to instill going forward, is kind of like owning what I want and who I want to be, and kind of speaking that out loudly, if that makes sense. And the other thing that kind of I like from I guess my parents' generation is like the family unit, like being there for your family, immediate family, whatever it is, but like having that kind of family unit is nice. I think it's dying down. I see it dying down in like many places, but I think having that unit is nice. And just being someone who's supportive and like caring in that sense. Because although it can feel like they're saying I'm not good enough, I think what they want to say, my parents, that is like, they've done so much, they've come through so much, and they've given all they can to get this far. So surely you can go forward and like be your best, if that makes sense. So for me, it's like instilling that into my children or family or whatever going forward. Any final remarks before we close up?
Just thank you for having us, really.
Yeah, big thank you.
No worries. I've generally enjoyed talking about all of this today, and it's been exciting. Hopefully I'll have you guys on soon as well for more conversations. But otherwise, is there any final kind of links or anything you want to share with anyone?
I'm good. Yeah.
Ethan's doing is it November?
Yeah, I'm doing Movember. So I'm doing that for men's mental health. Something that I've done with St George's for quite a bit with the rugby team. But yeah, I'm doing that. So I don't know if there's a link to donate. Or great now, I'm also doing 20k running over the month as well. So
nice.
Send me the links. I'll post them down below so people can get access to that. Yeah, but otherwise, thank you guys, and yeah, make sure you check out the next episode.